It's time for another brief look at the Premier League going into Game Week 8. If you're playing Fantasy Premier or any fantasy sports league and want to know what matters and get all sorts of geeky data on the title or playoff race, check out the PlayoffComputer app on the Play Store. It is what is being used here as the base for this analysis. And fair warning, this analysis is results driven without bias towards supposed good and bad teams. So odds and projections discussed may or may not match with betting lines and so-called expert predictions. On to the title race. We're not too deep into the season, so these numbers are likely fluid to say the least. And I'm still tinkering with the methodology of the calculations to adapt to the nuances of the Premier League. As of now, the computer's best guess is for 93 points to be a safe mark to aim for to take the title, with 73 being the rock bottom target to have at least a snowball's chance in hell. Looking at the top teams right now, starting with Liverpool, they beat Crystal Palace to stay on top. If they roughly stay on their pace after 7 games, they would hit that 93 points. Now to throw caution into the wind for them, look at who they have played so far. So far they have played 6 teams in the bottom half of the table. The only team in the top half they have played, and just barely in the top half at that, is Nottingham Forest, who gave them their 1 loss. So that does mean that since everything eventually evens out, their schedule for the rest of the season is going to be slightly tougher. Starting this week with Chelsea and then followed by Arsenal. At the moment, close to 1 in 5 mathematical odds to win the title. Next up, 1 point behind is Manchester City. Ended their mini streak of draws by beating Fulham. Have about a 14% chance to win the title. And while Liverpool has some tough matches, they get to feast on some of the bottom teams, particularly the bottom teams, with the Wolves and Southampton next up. Arsenal is also 1 point behind the leader. Picked on the underling Southampton team to stay on pace. Have 1 month next before that big match against Liverpool. Chelsea with a disappointing tie against Nottingham Forest, falling a little behind now. Puts them at 8% chances, but of course they could make up a lot of ground this week with a win over Liverpool. Aston Villa also at 8% with 14 points. And another team that has predominantly been playing the bottom half of the league. So that does mean things eventually are going to get tougher. Tied Manchester United last week, now play Fulham. Moving on to the opposite end of the field, the race for safety. As with the title race, these numbers are highly suspect at this stage, but we're looking at around 40 to 44 points for the teams in the top 17 to aim for. For the teams in trouble, the Wolves lost to Brentford and remain at 1 point. That means that it already looks like they're about to be realistically eliminated from the title race, as they would have to win out to get to the 93 points projected to be needed. But more importantly for now, they need to start putting some points on the board to escape relegation. Opposite to a couple of the leading teams, if you want to grasp at straws for something positive to look at, they have yet to play anyone near the bottom of the table. That doesn't ease up this week with Manchester City, but after that they would have gotten round 1 out of the way against the current top 5 teams. So things have to get easier eventually. Southampton also in the 1 point club. Unlike the Wolves, though, they haven't had a particularly brutal schedule. Play Leicester at home this week to try to get their first win. Crystal Palace, according to preseason predictions, wasn't supposed to have to be worrying about safety, but here they are. A measly 3 points, and their schedule hasn't been all that tough so far either. Nottingham Forest and the Spurs upcoming. Ipswich also looking for a victory. Lost to West Ham that last week. Still, they are almost playing with house money as they were the consensus to be in last place. And as of now, they have almost a 3 out of 4 chances to make safety. Everton this week at home, so a good opportunity to move further up the safe zone. Everton tied Newcastle to stay a little bit above the relegation line. That match against Ipswich this week, see if anyone wins to leave the other behind. Leicester at 6 points after a big win over Bournemouth. Gives them almost 8 out of 10 odds to be in the Premier League next year, which for a team picked to be almost at the bottom, I don't think they'll complain too much about. Have Southampton this week to try to keep the good times rolling. That's it for now. Things will be rather brief until much later in the season. Until next time, enjoy your day.